Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film Raging Grace, and I do recommend this one. It's pretty good. I had heard some rumblings that this was one that people should definitely check out before they're done watching films for 2023. It doesn't make my top list, but it's definitely one that was one of the nice surprises of the year. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Directed by Paris Zarcilla, this is the individual's first feature film. Also written by Paris as well as Pancake Zarcilla. Sorry if I didn't get those names fully correct, but I tried. I tried my best. This is an English and Philippine film. So it was actually filmed in the UK or in England, but also had Philippine influence as well and cooperation. So it's one of those kind of fusion films. Also, excuse me, and also to that note, it is in English at times and it is also in Filipino at times. So there are portions for subtitles, but it's not the entire film, and I would say the majority of the film is in English, and subtitles, there really aren't that many. So if you're someone who has a hard time with subtitles, just know there's not a whole lot that you'll have to get through for the movie, and I do recommend the movie. So, quick synopsis. It's about a woman who is a migrant worker to England who, she's from the Philippines, and she's trying to build a life for her and her daughter, and it is just her and her daughter. And she ends up working a bunch of, maid jobs, and ends up taking a job that a little bit odd, she doesn't fully feel comfortable with, and the dynamic of the people in the house seems a bit off. So I don't really want to say anything past that, just because I don't want to ruin the events of the film. And it is kind of listed as like horror, drama, mystery, and there definitely is a strong mystery element to it that really does drive the film forward, even though there are definitely pacing issues with this movie. And I do believe that it should have been cut down a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, just to kind of keep things moving a little bit better. There are some moments where it feels like it starts to get a little bit stuck in what it's saying, and it's repeating itself a bit. But anyway, you can get a pretty good idea where things are probably headed very early on in the film. Not fully specifically, but get an idea of something that's going to happen towards the end of the film. In what way, you won't know, but you get this feeling that there's this foreboding, foreshadowing something. And I'm sure a lot of people will pick up on it. They do an effective job of establishing just who characters are very quickly and mostly through actions. That does speak to pretty good writing, where it's one of those things, show, don't tell, where it's not people, specifically talking to each other and saying like, you're a jerk, you're a terrible person, or revealing things about their past, but it's showing the interactions between the people, and a lot of it has to do with their tone, their mannerisms, their facial expressions, stuff like that tells you so much about those characters, and they're able to characterize them so easily and quickly that it is kind of impressive, actually. I don't see a lot of writing that's kind of that smart in that realm, so nice job on that. The score in this film does become a bit over the top at times, is kind of like screaming at you way too much, but I really like the composition of it. I think it was really cool that they have a lot of kind of like clapping elements in the music. They have a lot of percussion elements, and they have a lot of kind of like discordant string notes at play in it. And the discordant string notes are some of my favorite types of music to have in horror films. I just feel like it gives it an extra creepy, like off feeling to the film. So really, really love the composition of the score for this one. I have to give a shout out to, and I hope I don't butcher this last name, Max Eganman, who played the main character Joy. Does an outstanding job from an acting standpoint. Does a particularly great job of conveying awkwardness and unease without saying anything. That's one of those big things. You got to look for the actors that not only can deliver lines extremely well, but their facial expressions are so good, their mannerisms are so good that they can show you things are awkward. I feel uneasy, stuff like that. And she does such a good job with that stuff that I was really pulled into her performance. She did wonderful. Between the acting, the music, and the camera work, you can feel a range of emotions that the main character ends up feeling in this film, and also her daughter. So I think when they put all those elements together, the acting is quite good in this film, and that's everyone. I just shouted out Max in particular because I thought she was the strongest. She really is the focal point of the film for the most part, so she really does stand out the most. Plus, she's great. But everyone does a really good job, and then the camera work is super engaging. A lot of cool angles, a lot of interesting camera movements, and like I said, the score is so good, and it matches up with scenes extremely well. So it really does all come together to help you feel. Like, it puts you in these emotional states that match what you're supposed to be feeling. It matches what's going on with the characters who are feeling the most at any given time. They achieve tension when there isn't even really anything horror related going on at times, which is interesting. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a small thing. It's not really spoiler, but there will be moments where, like, the character of Joy is like doing something in the house that maybe she thinks she could get in trouble for. And so she's kind of trying to, like, figure out, oh, how do I look like I was doing something else in the house, basically. And the tension that they build in that moment is very impressive, because otherwise, like, them not doing it exactly the way they do it, it would typically just play out as kind of like a whatever moment, but it feels a lot more important because of how they construct the scene, and like I said, the score to it, the acting to it, and the camera work. So really nice work there. Characters you are supposed to dislike do seem to be written a bit too strongly that way, unfortunately. This is one of the things where I think they went a little bit too hard in how they wrote some of these characters. Any of the characters you're supposed to dislike to any degree, it feels like it's kind of blown out of proportions. Less is more in that situation, I think, because it would make it feel a little more realistic. Whereas, some of these people where you're just like, oh, I can tell that's not a great person based off a pretty brief interaction. They just kind of keep hammering it home, and they make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're kind of like, okay, I don't really need this. They don't need to be like super villain status, basically. Like, people get it, like, you don't have to beat them over the head with it. So that's kind of like the whole score thing. Like, when you feel like it's screaming at you, like, you can play the score at like a reasonable level. You don't have to scream at people. Like, we get it, we hear it, we understand what's supposed to be going on. So it's one of those things. Things get to another level about 40 minutes into the film, and then things get to kind of another level again at about an hour into the film. So just know at those intervals are when things kind of step up with the intrigue, with things starting to change in the story, and I feel like that's pretty good. It's an hour and 40-minute film, and even though I did say that it needs cut down because the pacing is not the greatest, I feel like the intervals at which the big things happen are pretty well paced out. There's good intrigue that drives the film forward, even though the pacing is a bit off. Like I was saying, that mystery element, it says drama, mystery, horror on IMDb. Yeah, the mystery element really does help drive things forward. You truly don't really know where they are going to end up going at the end of this film. Like, you have an idea of certain elements of where it's going, but you don't know exactly how things are going to play out and what they're going to ultimately decide to do. So I like that. And it was a pretty good ending. I didn't have any real problems with it. This film does feel very much in the same vein as another film that came out this year. Has a lot of similar themes. Nocebo, that came out in the beginning of the year. It was a Shudder, I think Shudder exclusive, and it had Eva Green in it. That was also a film I enjoyed, and I'm actually going to end up giving these two films the same rating. But I think maybe I like this one slightly more, but not enough to get a different rating from it. But I'm going to talk about some thematic stuff in the film, so if you don't want to know anything about the film, really, including the theme stuff, you might want to stop right now. So, about to get into the themes. This film makes a point of how your job steals from your family, and I know that's something that a lot of people probably feel in society, myself included, where there are important things in your life, which are actually the people you love and your family, and your job, even though a lot of times they will say, oh, we are your family now. Like, we spend so much time together, we are family. Really what they're doing is just stealing time away from what matters most in your life. And I know a lot of people do feel that, and that's, the machine of having to actually have a job in order to pay for things. And, I mean, hopefully people have jobs where they enjoy it to some degree, but a lot of people don't, and that's very unfortunate. And in those instances, it feels even more like your time is being stolen from you. And then there's also an aspect of just the disrespect and, you know, employers looking at people as basically lesser people. Like, they're barely even people. They're an other. They're not even like on their level. They're not normal humans. So that is at play in here. And it is very easy in this film to see that it's primarily about the mistreatment of people who immigrate by those who hold power over those individuals. And I don't say immigrants, I say people who immigrate, because if you say immigrants, it's basically a categorization of people. And it puts the term immigrant as first, as the identifier of who those people are, as opposed to they're people who immigrate. They happen to immigrate. They're people first. And that's one of the things that this movie really goes hard at, is the fact that immigrants, or people who do immigrate, do end up getting treated poorly a lot of the times, especially, as I said, by the people who end up having power over them, especially because they end up in a, you know, disadvantaged situation in the country to which they have immigrated to. And that's fully on display here, and that also was the case, and I think that was also kind of the case in Nocebo. It's been a while since I watched that one, but yeah, I mean, pretty powerful in those terms, and a very interesting and important film, so I do recommend checking it out. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it a quite good 3.5 star rating. Did enjoy this one, do recommend it, and I rented it on Vudu. I think it was only like a little over $6 and some change for renting it, so not super costly and worth supporting, in my opinion. But this is where I'd love to hear other people's opinions. If you've seen Raging Grace, go ahead and put it down in the comments and just give me, you know, let me know, do you like it, did you hate it, were you in between on it, and give me like a sentence or two letting me know why, because I don't like it when people are just like, liked it, didn't like it. Okay, like, I want to have a conversation about this, at least to some degree. It doesn't need to be anything long, just a little bit. I just want to get into your mind a little bit and know exactly why you did or did not like it. But anyway, please do me a favor, put a like on this video if you want to support me. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, subscribe to my channel, which is another way to show your support, and I feel like I deserve it if you like any video I've ever done, even just one. And then also you can hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos. But regardless, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this, and until next time, keep it brutal.